Hello, hey, what's up? We are back with another fantasy podcast. Finally, finally, KB, we're
Let's
back
go,
here.
baby.
We took a little bit of time off, had some stuff going on, um, a lot going on in football, specifically fantasy football, with the draft and everything going on. But we are hoping to go into depth tonight about rookie drafts, rookie prospects, where we think they should go in your draft, guys that we like, guys that we don't like, just our overall thoughts on the draft. Um, it should be fun. I'm excited. I wish we could have put this out a little bit sooner because I know some people are just freaks and like to draft as soon as the actual NFL draft ends. I don't know who would do that. That's insanity. You got to be really weird to be
That's
doing all
insane
that.
behavior.
But anyways, KB, how we feel, Bob?
I feel good, man. Feel good. It's good to be back. I feel a lot better than I did on Monday when we were going to record the other podcast. I
Oh
just
yeah,
felt like death, so I got to take off. I did get to watch the podcast finally today, and I thought y'all did a great job talking about all the rookies, breaking down the draft. I thought y'all did a good job. I did not appreciate the way you talked about my work ethic and the desire, the lack of per se gusto. Interesting
yeah,
per se. That was interesting
interesting.
per se.
Ooh, yes, interesting.
But the
Yeah,
draft, this is like the peak of the entire offseason. And I don't care that everybody says that this draft sucks. I think, especially with rookie drafts, there's always an advantage to be had if you can think critically about the players and the places they're being selected. And I think we're going to show you a lot of players that you might not have thought about prior to your rookie drafts that make a lot of the later round picks more valuable. So, yeah, I'm
nice.
stoked for this one. And
Yeah,
I've already done about I'm in what 12 leagues, I think now, 12 dynasty leagues. I think I've drafted in 50% of them.
good Lord.
So I've got some
And this
experience under my belt.
this doesn't only apply to if you're just doing a rookie draft upcoming. I mean, this applies for when you're
No.
looking at these guys and regular season drafts and best ball drafts. If you want to
Yep.
get into dynasty, like this is for all of it. This doesn't just
Yeah.
apply to the weirdos who are about to do the rookie drafts. Um,
Yeah.
I guess the first thing I wanted to ask you is how unique is this draft class of prospects, and are there any years in the past that kind of remind you of this class?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely been some bad classes like this one. They all come in different shapes and sizes. I was
Yeah.
looking back earlier today at the 2019 draft class because that one only had two running backs. It was David Montgomery and Josh Jacobs. And
Oh,
both of those guys went early. Josh Jacobs, I think, ended up paying off, but it took a little time. But he's been a good long-term starter. David Montgomery just never really reached the ceiling. I think he was drafted routinely in the top 3, top 4 of rookie drafts. But that was
mm.
also the year N'Keal Harry got drafted. And then in the back end of the first, you had guys like AJ Brown and DK Metcalf going, and they were like the 110 to 112 range. Because one, DK Metcalf didn't have a lot of production, but he was a freak athlete. And then AJ Brown, um, he just had a horrible landing spot. And if I'm not mistaken, they played on the same team, which is insane,
Mm.
insanity.
I know that
Um,
is wild.
so yeah, I mean, it reminds me of that class. Um, I think the top like 5, you could argue 6 picks in this draft are pretty solid picks. They might not have as high of ceilings other than Jeremiyah Love as some of the other guys or the other draft classes. There's a really bad dead spot after the 106 all the way into the early part of the second round. But then I think
Wow.
when you get into this late second to the third and the fourth, I think there's a lot of interesting guys. I think people forgot that this draft class is like one of the most athletic draft classes we've seen, especially at the
Mm.
receiver position. And so while there's not a whole lot of like stellar production guys, and so a lot of the analytics focused players aren't going to like many of these guys because they didn't really perform that well in college. Um, there's a lot of guys that could have some pretty high potential in the league, and they're worth taking a shot on. Um, So I think this class is very unique. And it does take some practice or some guidance to learn how to walk through it. So yeah, I'm ready whenever you are. Do you like
Nice.
this class though?
Certain aspects of it, yeah, I really like. I think last time we talked about Dynasty, the major thing we were talking about was not reacting as much as the market does. And
Yeah,
right now, currently in a lot of leagues, what I'm seeing is people are just throwing away their 2026 draft picks for pennies. They
yeah,
don't want to have anything to do with this draft because of what they heard on Twitter, what their favorite analyst said, whatever it was. They don't want to have any kind of stock in this draft. Yet they're looking
yeah.
at a 2027 and think every single pick in that draft is just absolute gold. I mean, you got to
Right, right.
pay out of your butt to get a 2027 first
Yeah.
round. And honestly, the
Everybody
second
thinks
rounds
their
too.
27 first is Jeremiah Smith. It
Yeah,
really bothers
exactly.
me.
It's very
There can only be
frustrating.
one.
Exactly. I know. So real quick before we go, like how do you manipulate the market in that way when these 2027 picks are so stacked? Like especially these guys who are in a situation to where maybe they have, one or two picks like early in this draft and are still in a rebuild mode and potentially want to turn those picks into more future picks, but can't
Right.
because people are valuing their late 27 first higher than the 101 or the 102 and the 2026 first.
Yeah, and this has been extremely difficult. Like I said earlier, if you've got the 106, I mean, some people like the 106, others can't stand it. So if you have the 106 through like the early second round, say like the 204 or something like that, um, it's really hard to trade those picks for any future year out draft capital. I would try for 28s if you could, picks in 2028, just because I think trying to get a 2027 right now is unrealistic. Try, but
Hmm.
most of those managers are holding it. Um, but I'm always a guy that likes to zig when others people are zagging, So like when
Exactly.
people are selling all their picks and trying to gather up picks for 2027, you know, I think that opens up an avenue to sell your 2027 picks for players who will perform for the next 2 years. We know most rookies take some time to ramp up. So you're looking at 2 years of potential production from really good players if you can trade those 27 picks. With these 26 picks, like I said, in that dead zone, trying to trade them for vets is, I think, a good way to do it, especially if you've got two of those picks. And this is one where I'm not even looking at the trade calculators because the trade calculators are so jacked up right now. Because you could, I saw a trade earlier today. I wish I could pull it up. I might be able to if I filibuster long enough. A guy traded Justin Jefferson today, and he traded it for the 108 in this class and the 202 and Jalen Waddle. So
Wow.
Jalen Waddle, 108 and like 202. And it got the league up in a fuss. And the guy was like, I put it in the trade calculator. Look, it was even. And the trade calculator showed it was even. But the trade calculator is basing it off of the pick spot, but it's not basing it off of the player available at that spot. Because you're looking
Right.
at Kenyon Sadiq or Omar Cooper there. No way does that add up to match the value of a guy like Justin Jefferson. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's a
Exactly.
really difficult. It's kind of the wild, wild west, and I don't mind pairing up. I mean, I traded two late first, like the 110 and the 112, and a early second, like the 202 for Brian Thomas Jr. in one of my
Nice.
leagues, and I feel really good about that. Even though Brian Thomas has some issues right now, I think that was a savvy move.
Yeah, we're not scared about Brian Thomas and last
No,
year's production. We're not
not at
worried.
all.
He already proved he's elite in this first year. It just
Yeah,
it's gonna happen.
yeah.
Nice. I like it. Well, yeah, let's jump right into it. Um, the 101 pick, I think there's no argument, debate right here who goes. Jeremiah Love lands in Arizona. A lot of speculation that this was a rough landing spot as Arizona's not super strong and needs a lot of needs. And we can argue about the Arizona did make the most logical pick, but we're here to talk about fantasy football.
We're gonna have to edit this as we go. I thought there was a way you could do the sleeper board and just like pick your own picks there, but this is pretty close to ADP, so we'll keep it there.
Okay. Okay.
But yes,
Nice.
like you said, Jeremiyah Love. I haven't seen anybody else go 1-on-1. It's only
Nice.
ever always been Jeremiyah Love, and I think it's the right pick. He's probably going to have a down season year one. He's probably going to get vultured by Tyler Algier all season, and everybody's going to be frustrated. They didn't spend money on Tyler Algier and intend to not use him. But Jeremiyah Love, just the ceiling is so high. He's like one of the better running back prospects we've seen in a long time. So, yeah, I think that one's easy.
I'm excited for J Love, man. He's going to be good.
Me too.
I would have loved to have gotten him in one league, but I'm not bad enough in any of my leagues.
Me neither. I tried to be bad in multiple leagues, and there was one guy, shout out Drew, who was just worse than me in every league.
Gosh, irritating.
Couldn't do it. I just had too much Luther burden.
Yeah, exactly. This next pick is where it gets very interesting, at least in my eyes, and potentially in your eyes. I think most consensus has this as Carnell Tate. He went 104 overall, which is insane, to the Tennessee Titans, where he'd be playing alongside Cam Ward. Not a whole lot of competition with Wan'Dale Robinson, Alec Amanor, Jameer DK, maybe some other guys. I don't know if they picked up maybe in free agency. Gunnar Helm. I do like Gunnar Helm. But who are you taking at this pick if you had the 102, Cam? Is it Carnell Tate or are you moving elsewhere?
I was about to change this player. Well, that's not going to work. Will it let me just remove it? Let's see. It's just going to make me keep picking. We'll just say this. I'd put Jordyn Tyson at 102. Wow. I don't agree with Carnell Tate at 102. And it all comes down to upside. You know, I still think Carnell Tate's going to be good. But I think the perfect example is looking at last year. Emeka Egbuka was ticketed as like the safest option going early. It was him, Tedera McMillan. It was also Luther Burden was another one of those receivers who were going in the first round. Sometimes Luther was sometimes in the second. But Egbuka was a guy that people were saying, yeah, you know, he's going to be the most solid, but he doesn't have a high ceiling, you know. And we saw last year he dominated the first few games, and it was awesome. It was great. And then just tapered off terribly. And you can blame Baker Mayfield and injuries. You can blame all kinds of different things. But, you know, that's like the opposite trajectory we want to see for a rookie prospect. We want to see them continually, gradually getting better and better as the season goes on, or if they start off hot, that they maintain. And to drop off like that is very concerning. Right now, I think Tedera and Luther Burden should be ranked ahead of Emeka Egbuka. And so Jordyn Tyson, I think, has way more upside. He's a baller. You're getting him at a little bit of a discount because of the injury narrative around him. But I just think Jordyn Tyson's better. And I don't think that should be really that heavily debated. And I like his fit better in New Orleans. So
nice.
Give me Jordyn Tyson at 102, Carnell Tate 103, easy. I'm not changing that. So
yeah, I'm right there with you. I love Jordyn Tyson. Carnell Tate, I think I'm even lower on him than you are, to be honest.
Yeah.
This is a guy who his best college season was 875 yards, I think it was.
Yeah.
Which is just, it's mind blowing to me that you can look at this guy and be like, yeah, I'm taking him at the 104. I don't get it. You know, one guy he kind of reminds me of, old prospect that was a big bust, was Sammy Watkins. I don't know why I was thinking about old Sammy the other day.
Sammy Watkins.
I will say Carnell Tate is probably the safest pick here. I don't think he's going to bust like Sammy Watkins. I think he's going to be solid. I think that he is going to have an opportunity to see a high target share. We'll see if he can handle it because he never had a very high target share in college. And, of course, everyone's argument, oh, he was with the best player in the country, Jeremiah Smith. In my opinion, I think that should have taken away a lot of looks from the defense from his way, and he should have eaten off of that. If you want a comparison, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, their last season, I think J-Jeff had like 1,200 yards and Jamar had like 15. And everyone's like, oh, well, that's J-Jeff and Jamar. Well, we didn't know they were that elite until they got to the league. Right. Actually, the NFL didn't think so too because Jalen Reagor was taking over Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, we knew Jamar Chase was elite. I mean,
we knew Jamar Chase was elite.
he sat out his junior season. That is insane.
Yeah,
He
it's
was
wild.
like, I put enough on film for my freshman and sophomore year. I'm sitting out my junior year and still got drafted top 5. Unbelievable.
That's crazy. Yeah, he's insane. He's insane.
But
And yeah,
yeah,
obviously JJF is probably a better prospect overall than Carnell.
Yeah.
But and typically I will say and past seasons, if you wanted to pull up the statistics of it, is when teams reach on players like this who analytically have a profile similar to Carnell Tate's, it usually doesn't pan out the way you think it would.
Right.
That is a big thing that I've seen is like just because the NFL takes a shot earlier at a player doesn't mean that we have to do the same thing. And that goes for the other part too of the NFL passes up on a player 1, 2, 3 rounds, then that should say something to us. Kind of similar to who's the Miami wide receiver I'm sure we'll get into at some point, Caleb Douglas. This man dropped all the way to the 5th round. He's supposed to be some athletic guy, and that should say something to us. Anyways, I'm not going to keep wasting time on it. If I had the 103, I probably would go Carnell Tate because it would just be silly to do other things. I wouldn't hate someone who went Makai Lemon, but we can move on to 104, which I'm guessing you have Makai Lemon at.
Yeah, this one was early. I was shifting to, and I play in a lot of superflex.
Good point.
Really Mendoza should be in conversation here. Sorry to everybody that the draft board isn't reflecting exactly what we want. We kind of rushed this, but anyway, I think Mendoza is a good option here. I think there's a tier. It's Mendoza, Makai Lemon, and Darian Price. And to me, I don't really care about Darian Price. Really, I think KC Concepcion should be in that tier. Actually, I'm in that tier. I would put KC Concepcion in that tier. And Darian Price is like my 106, and that's why I say it's arguable. Actually, he'd be 107 in this case because I would have Mendoza over him. But 104, yeah, I'm going to stick with Makai Lemon. I think we overreacted really quickly to the Eagles landing spot. Everybody had their immediate stuff, and we're like a month off of the article about Jalen Hurts being a terrible quarterback, and the team hates him, and he hates the team, and all this dumb stuff. They're getting him a weapon. They're getting rid of A.J. Brown. I think that they've got a brand new OC, bringing in a brand new system, and I just don't think Jalen Hurts is that bad of a quarterback. You don't go to the Super Bowl 2 times and ball out in the Super Bowl. Like, I don't think people understand. It is hard to ball out in the Super Bowl. A lot of good quarterbacks get into the Super Bowl and don't play well. Tom Brady had a couple of Super Bowls where he played horribly. And so Jalen Hurts has gone to 2 and just ripped it up. And especially that most recent one where they ended up winning. So I'm not really that afraid of Makai Lemon landing with Jalen Hurts in Philly. So he would be my 104. I think 105 would be Mendoza for me, especially in Superflex. Safe floor. And I think he's got a decent ceiling and a good offense with a good OC with Kubiak. And then Concepcion. And I know you could probably talk a long time about Concepcion, but this is a guy that I think he had probably one of the better freshman seasons out of any of the receivers in this class. That's always a good sign for a player to dominate early on in their career in college. Had some injuries, tapered off a little bit after transferring. And I think the transfer portal really muddies the water for how we look at prospects. But if you were to tell me that a year from now we'd be ranking KC Concepcion as like wide receiver 2, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah. Yep. I like that take a lot. He's got it all. He's quick. He can run routes. He can, get contested catches. He can separate. Obviously, the landing spot is super unattractive to the team that has no idea who's going to start at QB for them. That stinks. Yeah. But again, we're taking guys with high upside, and that's what we want to chase. We don't want to chase guys who are always safe or just draft guys for positional need every single time. We're taking the guy with high upside. And I don't care that the Browns took Denzel Boston. I don't care that the Browns are looking for a QB. It doesn't matter to me at all. KC Concepcion has one of the better profiles. And if we were talking about KC Concepcion going to a better team, I think we could be looking at him going in like a top 4 pick. and I think everything would be a little bit different. But yeah, I love that
Yep.
take you had on it.
Yeah, and I think the Browns are very analytics forward as an organization, and so they're taking into account a lot of the analytics. And he was their guy. Denzel Boston. I think they only drafted him because he fell, and they were taking best player available. They've done this the last 2 drafts, so I'm with you. I'm not really concerned about Denzel Boston. I think Concepcion's a really good player. So yeah, I think right there, 107. You got Darian Price at 107. To me, dude, everybody talks about first round running back hit rates and how they're so high. As long as a running back gets hit in the first round, they have a good chance of hitting. And I don't see it with Price. I think you have to look into the deeper context of the fact that this draft is completely devoid of good running backs.
Yep.
After Jeremiyah Love, the drop in talent is so insane. And Jadarian Price played well, I think, this last year, especially for Notre Dame. But he just doesn't strike me as like a lead back. Some people like to bring up the comparison of Tony Pollard, but I think Tony Pollard had a better profile in general and was just stuck behind a guy like Ezekiel Elliott, who was like a generational prospect when he came
Right.
out. And when they were playing together in Dallas. So, but this is why I still have him at 107, because I think there is a chance that he is decent, that he will play all right. But I still think that starting the season out, it's going to be George Holani and Jadarian Price and probably Emmanuel Wilson, the old Packers running back, coming over. I don't see Price getting a full workload right off the bat. And I just don't think that I see the Clyde Edwards-Helaire comparisons very strongly here. And just because you get a guy in the first round doesn't mean he's good. That's a big thing, And are you going to sit here and honestly tell me that because Jadarian Price got drafted in the first round that he's better than guys like Travion Henderson, who got drafted in the second round last year?
It's
No.
insane.
Travion got drafted in the second round because running backs were aplenty. They were flowing.
Absolutely.
It's just, you got to understand the context of the draft that you're in and why general managers would do that. They got rid of Kenneth Walker. They got to get a running back, had to get somebody, and they probably looked down the barrel. They said, it's 132. Just burn the pick. Just take a running back. Same thing the Chiefs did a few years ago. And look what that did to them.
Exactly. And this goes again to we're not going to reach on a player just because a team in the NFL reached for him. The draft, it doesn't make him any better. It doesn't make his profile any better.
No.
Seahawks clearly drafted because they felt this burning need, and that was the offense they wanted to run last year. Even with Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet was the dual threat backfield, and they saw something in Jadarian. I guess they liked a little bit more, but yeah, like you said, I don't mind taking a shot at him just because out of all the teams that he went to, this was probably one of the best situations that he could fall into as a running back with not much of a college profile, nothing to really go off of. If I had to take a shot on a running back in this class that isn't Jeremiyah Love, then it'd be Jadarian because he went to the Seahawks. And that just presents major upside. So if you really need it and the guys that you wanted to take there are all gone, then I understand taking it. But, similar to what you said, it's hard to get excited about a guy who just wasn't even the best running back on his team, not a lot of production. Nothing really stands out about him. It's just nothing to really get excited about.
Yeah. Yep. I'm right there with you. So we'll speed up a little bit here. Don't worry about the draft. It's going to do what it wants to do. The next tier, this is like I told you earlier, is where I see it really dropping off. The Omar Cooper start or Kenyon Sadiq in a lot of places.
Is this the 108?
Yeah. Well, it starts at 10. Well, yeah, it would start at 108. That's correct. Yeah. So 108 is where I do not want the pick. Get me out of there. Fire sale. Go buy you some, vets. I'm talking old guys. If you got to send one of these first to go get Mike Evans, I don't care about trading the 110, which is in this draft, Denzel Boston. I do not care about swapping Denzel Boston for Mike Evans. Give me Mike Evans all day, every day.
Wow.
Or if you're tanking, go trade for later seconds in this draft and try to get a bundle of them. So I think that's the way to play it. But I just, if I were giving people advice, that from 108, I think all the way up to about 204, I would just be skipping. And that includes, Kenyon Sadiq, Omar Cooper, Denzel Boston, Eli Stowers, Jeremy Bernard. He actually goes a lot later. Guys like Chris Bell, I don't care. Jonah Coleman, there's a lot of people who really like Jonah Coleman, and I don't mind Jonah Coleman, but at that price, it's just too high.
Insane. Agreed.
So,
Agreed. One guy I haven't heard you bring up just yet is Ty Simpson, which obviously is only intriguing in superflex. So give me a rundown on Ty Simpson. Where would you take him? Why would you take him? Is he worth any value to us potentially in future years? Because this year won't be the year, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, if you get stuck with him, like if you get stuck in that tier and you got to take somebody, I love taking Simpson. He's the one. I love taking quarterbacks that people are passing on, because everybody gets sucked into the playing time rut. They're worried about, when's he going to start? When's he going to play? When's he going to do this? When's he going to do that? And so, I don't really care as much because it's Dynasty. I'll take a guy like Ty Simpson, let him sit on the bench and marinate. But you just got to know that he's probably not going to come to full value fruition for a while. And with the negative connotations of him as a player, that he was overdrafted by the Rams and all these different things, then people still aren't going to value him even when he is announced the starter. But I think Ty Simpson actually showed a lot of promise on tape. He had a pretty good year last year playing for Alabama, had some injuries, but just I thought a pretty good quarterback prospect. And I don't really understand the hate from big NFL draft media for the Rams to take him. I think we talked about this before the draft, was just take stabs at quarterback. This is one thing that just bothers me with teams, especially being a Steelers fan. You can see all my Steelers paraphernalia. We waited till Ben Roethlisberger's arm was halfway dangling off of his body and then drafted a quarterback for the next year and thought, oh, well, this will just be a smooth transition. We got a first-round quarterback. And it was Kenny Pickett, who needed time to, sit under somebody else's tutelage for a while to learn the game. He was thrust into action early, and it just ruins their careers. Now you're talking about a guy, Ty Simpson's going to have probably a similar career path to Jordyn Love. And while I don't really love Jordyn Love, I have to admit he's a pretty good quarterback. He's probably a top, 16 quarterback in the league. I know people will argue, hopefully that irritates Packers fans or Jordyn Love stands, but you had to wait 3 years for him to even play. And then there were lots of injuries when he came in and played. So that's the risk you're running, but he is a safe pick, and as the years go by, I think it'll get closer to him starting. And here's the other thing. Stafford started the year off last year. We didn't even think he was going to play football at all because of his back injury, And so everybody forgets that because he won the MVP, but Stafford's old and all it takes is one good hit, one good lick, and then Ty Simpson's in there week 4. And he's got the rest of the year with, Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams and all those tight ends they have now. So, I'm not afraid of taking Ty Simpson. He's not a bad pick at all.
Good. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, again, this is one of the best places for him to fall. And
yep.
To your Jordyn Love point, yeah, it took a couple years for him to I guess, blossom as your valuable pick that you took. But think about Jordyn Love, a Jordyn Love type SQB in this draft. He's going top 5, right? If not top 3. And if that's the kind of upside we have with Ty Simpson, then why would we not take stabs at that, that you said?
Right.
And yeah, I don't think we should waste a whole lot of time on some of these guys you talked about between Omar Cooper, Denzel Boston, Chris Bell, Jeremy Bernard. Just to kind of wrap it all up, these are just guys that were reached on in the draft because it was just a positional need by NFL teams. Analytically, their profiles are just not very strong, not very good. And that's not to say that they're always going to be bad. I know the future, I'm probably going to be wrong. And honestly, I hope I'm wrong because I want us to have better fantasy assets. But it's just not guys that are valuable and are worth a first round pick.
Yeah.
Real quick, hit on Kenyon Sadiq. I think a lot of people would maybe combat you on that one just because he was taken in the first 20 picks and his profile makes him interesting, especially in tight end premium leagues.
Yeah. All right. So real quick, I've changed the draft board just to make it make more sense. This is a Dynasty Data Lab. Great resource for anybody who's interested. Make sure you go check it out. This guy just makes all these. This data is populated from real sleeper drafts. So this is the average draft position of rookies since May 23rd till today. So this will give us a more accurate representation of where players are going right now in this draft. So I'll leave that there.
Very good.
Yeah. So Kenyon Sadiq, he's just so boom bust to me that taking him in the first round is so scary. If he was going in the second round, makes more sense. But this is a guy that is basically propelled by the fact that he ran a 4.440, which is ridiculous. He's an athletic freak. Had a great combine. I think that we've seen this where players that have these manufactured touch roles in college, it doesn't really translate to the NFL because they're not actually beating coverage. They're not actually beating zone or beating man, but they're becoming a focal point in the offense. And really, he wasn't even the focal point of the offense. He was actually outperformed by another tight end on the team. I don't think it was Michael Trigg, the guy that goes later. It was another tight end who's coming out next year, who's a dog. He's going to be very, very good. So keep your eye out for him. But, still Sadiq has that power to, catch a ball, catch a screen pass and take it to the house. You match that with the fact that he got drafted by the Jets, who are, completely rebuilding, tearing it down to the studs. They've got Geno Smith starting this year. And hopefully I think Geno Smith's going to bounce back a little bit. But you've also got other guys in that offense. You got Garrett Wilson. They drafted Omar Cooper just like 15 picks after Kenyon Sadiq. So the room's just getting a little more crowded. And so for Kenyon Sadiq to really pan out, he's got to be a target earner. And we haven't seen that yet. And that's what makes him so risky to me. He's not a target earning player. He's an athletic player that in college could just destroy the playing field. But in the NFL, he's going to come against a lot stiffer competition. So, yeah,
Nice.
That's kind of where I stand on that.
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. I do have some excitement for the Jets offense this year. I think the offense itself is going to score a lot more points than it did last year, which isn't saying a whole lot, obviously. It's
Right.
just figuring out who those players are going to be and who's going to be highlighted. It's tough to predict, man. Golly, I really was shocked that New York went the Kenyon Sadiq route right there at 16 when we were all projecting probably Makai Lemon maybe at that pick. It's wild that they valued Kenyon a little bit more and the tight end position a little bit more, especially after last year taking Mason Taylor in the second. But we don't need to keep going on about the Jets drafting strategies.
Yeah, last year they were really interested in Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren, and they weren't able to get either one. Or they were drafting earlier. I can't remember. They also wanted Brock Bowers the year before. There's a lot of smoke around them wanting a tight end. So I think this is something they've wanted for a while. So it didn't actually surprise me, but it did disappoint me. So let's hit this second round. So really, I think the cutoff point is 202. If we're looking at this ADP, for that tier. So I'd say 108, which this should be Kenyon Sadiq right here. I put KC Concepcion at pick 7. So 108 to about 202. I don't really care about those guys. Chris Bell is such a dream, you're wish casting. And I didn't even think he was that great of a player in general. But here at 2-3, you got Singleton, you've got Jeremy Bernard, Antonio Williams, Katron Allen, and even over to Zachariah Branch and Carson Beck. Like, I think all these guys are fine as second round picks.
Nice. Very good. Yeah, I think Singleton is honestly one of my one of the running backs that went later on that I'm pretty excited about. And
Yeah.
it's not that he did anything crazy in college. He was, subpar, but he does have the attributes to be just a do-it-all back, to be the three-down
Right.
back. He's big. He's got speed. Maybe not as explosive, but he's got a little bit to it. He can catch balls up the backfield. And then he lands
Yep.
in this spot in Tennessee, which I think could open up beautifully for him. We're looking at
Yeah.
Tony Pollard and Tajay, who are both free agents next year. And if Tennessee doesn't do anything else, which is, again, hopeful dreaming for your second-round pick,
Right.
then it's Singleton, as long as everything goes well for him in this year.
Yeah.
So that is the kind of guy I'd love to take a stab at in the second round, get my hands on.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he ran for like 3,000 yards in his college career, which is pretty
Jeez.
incredible compared to most other prospects. He looks like Saquon Barkley light when he plays. So like, I'm not saying he's like so that good. He's definitely a light. Like if he was healthy, he'd probably be if he had been healthy, he probably could have been like a mid to late first round pick. And especially in this draft, he probably would have been the guy that the Seahawks would have taken at 32 instead of Darian Price. We might have been more excited.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess if we wanted to rapid fire some of these, the reason I like Jeremy Bernard, he's not like outstanding. I don't think he has this crazy ceiling, especially in a Steelers offense that we have no idea what's going to happen. But if you press into that uncertainty, Steelers now have a whole new regime. They've got Mike McCarthy, and they put the RFA tag on Aaron Rodgers this past week, which may push Rodgers to not play, which, definitely is a good thing, I think, for the Steelers as an organization, but could be bad for the offense. But they're going to run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. Jeremy Bernard projects as that third receiver. He'll play on the outside opposite DK, Pittman in the slot. I think he's just going to get a lot of opportunity, and he could pay off fine. He's a guy that I think is going to get enough value for you to re-roll a second-round pick next year if you wanted to trade him for another second.
Nice.
Do you want to talk
Nice.
about your boy Antonio Williams? I know
Yeah,
you
I'll
like
talk about Antonio Williams. Okay.
Come on,
I
dog.
was going to say Antonio Williams is someone that I'd have no problem taking in the first 3 picks in the second round. I like Antonio Williams a lot. I like his landing spot. Washington was one team I really wanted to take one of the 3 receivers in the first round. They got Sonny Styles, which I don't mind that at all. That helps them a lot. But they come back and get Antonio Williams in the 3rd round, I believe it was.
Yep.
And yeah, he's great, man. Right now, we're looking at a team that has Terry McLaurin, who, as much as I love Terry McLaurin, he's never been this like crazy target hog kind of guy. He's been
Yeah.
a downfield stretcher. I mean, just great route runner, just great on the sideline. But then you bring in Antonio Williams, who is just a speedy slot receiver. He can just absolutely be the target hog guy across the middle, man. And I'm super excited for it. He had a little bit of a problem dropping some passes, but I think that's fixable. I think that's one
Yeah.
thing that like you can work on in camp and get a lot better at. Unlike, some of these other attributes that you just naturally need to have in order to be a good receiver. So I'm excited for Antonio. I think this is one of the better landing spots for a receiver, especially an athletic receiver that goes later on. I'm
Yeah.
taking shots at Mr. Williams. I like that.
Yep. 100%. Katron Allen, not an exciting prospect. He's big. He's, lumbering. He's just a bruiser back, but he's going to Washington, who notably did not draft any running backs this year. They had Bill Krosky Merritt, who now everybody hates because they thought that he was going to be the savior.
Yeah.
And said, but Bill's now the starter at this point. I think Katron Allen could be that Chris Rodriguez type. And we saw Chris Rodriguez last year, and, it was uninspiring once again for fantasy, especially. But, if you had a young, juiced up Chris Rodriguez and Katron Allen, I think go for it. I think he's a fine pick there. Emmett Johnson's a guy that is very exciting as a running back. I really liked him. Kind of wish he didn't get buried behind Kenneth Walker, but he will probably end up being the RB2 for the Chiefs. And he's fun. He's kind of a similar player to Kenneth Walker. He's forces a lot of missed tackles, able to break the big plays. I do like him. But
Yeah.
here, these next two are my favorite ones here. Zachariah Branch, Carson Beck. I can't believe Carson Beck's going this late. I guess I can believe it just, because he's Carson Beck, and I can't stand Carson Beck. But I've learned my lesson with fading quarterbacks. The lesson is nobody knows what the heck is going on with quarterbacks. And one of the biggest, things that we've seen in the last few years is quarterback starts in college, translate to the NFL. You've got a guy with Carson Beck who started a lot in college. I'm not saying he's going to be good, but you got Jacoby Brissett starting at quarterback for the Cardinals. I can guarantee you right now that he is not going to start the entire season. At some point, Carson Beck is going to get on the field. He's going to have an opportunity to play. And so you're going to learn really fast if this pick's going to pay off or not. And so it could pay off. It could be fine. I think as long as he's serviceable, you might be able to get something for him. And if he is, look at Tyler Shuck last year. Tyler Shuck was going late second round because he was old and he had a weird throw that he did at the combine. But now this year, I've seen people trading first round picks for him, and they surround him with a whole bunch of weapons. Who's to say this can't happen for Carson Beck? You got to put your pride down. I would target Carson Beck and Zachariah Branch, man. We both love Zachariah, mainly because of college football, CFB 25 and 26. But besides college football, like the game, this was a good player early on in his career. Once again, an early flasher, where his freshman year was very good. And it tapered off. And I really do think this transfer portal thing is a big deal. I don't think he's, the best receiver in this class, but now he's going to Atlanta and they're going to have Drake London on one side. They don't have Darnell Mooney anymore. So Zachariah Branch fits right into the Darnell Mooney role. He just has a very high chance of paying off his ADP here at the 208? Okay. 207, 208.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love it.
And he's a lot more dynamic with the ball in his hands, too. This is someone you want to get the ball to, very much so.
Right.
I like that.
Right.
And I like your Carson Beck point a lot because it has worked for me, and then it also hasn't worked for me because years ago I took Will Levis in the beginning of the second round. But you know what? It was my fault because Will Levis came in and threw for 4 touchdowns his first game. And that was when right there I should have traded him and sold him because I had offers. And
you had a lot of offers. I remember that.
Yeah, I got a lot of offers. And actually in the off season, that same year going into his sophomore year of NFL League, they went and got a couple weapons for him. There was a lot of buzz and excitement around the Tennessee offense. And again, I was offered a lot for Will Levis. You know what's crazy? I was offered a 2027 first round for Will Levis 2 or 3 years ago, which is crazy because 2027 obviously is what it is now. And you've got to pay, your entire lineup to get it. And I could have gotten it for Will Levis. So that's my own fault. But anyways, there's been a lot of other QBs that I've taken later. Bo Nix is another QB I got later in the second that, again, was an older prospect, like you said. People hated him for some reason. Everyone passed him up. I scooped him up in the second, and I flipped him for a different player. I can't remember now, but whoever I flipped it for helped me win a league.
Yep.
So yeah, it's always nice taking a shot at QBs because people don't love their QB until they get into the season and realize they need it. And when they go looking for the guy who has QBs, you're going to be standing there with 6 of them because you weren't afraid to take a QB in the second round that everyone hated. So I like that.
And I know another thing I've seen a lot too is that a lot of people don't want to pay up for the expensive quarterbacks. They don't want to pay up for a Josh Allen, or they don't have the capacity to pay up for a Josh Allen. And they're just trying to find somebody with a pulse that they could start at quarterback. So they like these cheaper quarterback options. So it is easier to get a deal done. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing people trading Carson Beck for 29 firsts once he starts, for Arizona this year.
Wow.
Just because it's a pick that's 3 years out. And if you're using your 207, 208 here in 2026, and you're able to turn that into a future 2029 first, that could be anything, I think you just smashed that trade. So that's what you have to think about.
Nice.
This is my number one rule with rookie drafts, is I'm drafting players with who are going to ascend in value, and don't try to mitigate the risk of like the boom bust players, and try to get guys that I know are going to be on the field, have opportunities to perform, and be able to trade them. Don't get married to them. Just because you draft them in a rookie draft doesn't mean they're going to be on your team forever. In fact, I use most of my rookie picks. You've seen me in some leagues where like I'll draft like 12 rookies, and before the season even starts, I've traded them all away. And that's just zigging when everybody else zags. So
exactly. Well, yeah, moving into the third round. I don't know if you want to cover every single guy, but in my opinion, this is where we start to get into a lot of situations where teams kind of double dip to the position, specifically like wide receiver and tight end. I mean, one to name was the Baltimore Ravens taking Surratt, and then also Jacoby Lane. And then we have a lot of teams that were just, I forgot the number, but it was so many tight ends taken in this, like day 2 and day 3. A lot of them blocking tight ends, but other also athletic tight ends. So I do really want to get your opinion on what kind of shots should we be taking, what receiver should we be looking at when teams double dip at the receiver position, and then also looking at these tight ends, like is there any hope for them? Is there any dart throw at these guys, even though they went to a team that already has more established tight ends? Take it from there. Let me hear your thoughts.
Yep. So I think especially this early part, Stribling, terrible prospect profile, production wise. He is an athletic freak, and I think that's why the 49ers took him. I'm willing to spend a pick on him. I've done it a couple times, but I'm not reaching for him. Surratt, I think, is way more interesting. Big body receiver. This is a guy that the Ravens double dipped, like you said. They hit Jacoby Lane. Bless you, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful face.
Thank you very much.
They drafted Elijah Surratt and Jacoby Lane, two big body receivers who are jump ball guys. And this is totally different than anything the Ravens have done in like the last 10 years. They've been getting guys. Their number one receiver is Zay Flowers. Before that, it was Rashad Bateman and Sammy Watkins a while back. This is probably the last time they had a bigger body receiver with Sammy Watkins.
Sammy Watkins mentioned twice in one night is crazy.
That is kind of crazy. In the year of our
what
Lord,
are we doing?
I think Surratt to me is a little more interesting, even though Jacoby Lane has the sicker highlight tape.
Wow.
Surratt just had a longer career. He's also former JMU Duke. Go Dukes.
Dukes.
Coach Signetti. And he followed Signetti over to Indiana. I just think he's a guy that Lamar's going to have as a safety valve. And I think that's going to help Lamar a lot. So I think I like him as a player.
Okay.
I do not care about Malachi Fields. Once again, this is a guy you only watch on Just Bomb Productions. Do not care. I don't think he's good at all. So skip him.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Brazzell. He's another guy that I think is somewhat interesting, especially landing with Carolina. Speedster, tall, comparisons to Randy Moss, just like every Tennessee receiver. But he's a little different than other Tennessee receivers. The rest of the receivers here, like Skylar Bell, Ted Hurst, Jacoby Lane, they're all dart throws. I don't really know what's going to happen with them, but they're athletic. That's what I could say about them. Skylar Bell comps to what's his name for the Bills, Khalil Shakir, perfectly. So
nice.
Bills drafted Skylar Bell. Ted Hurst, small school guy, baller in Georgia State. Jacoby Lane, go watch Just Brown Productions on him. Great. But I don't know what they're going to be in the NFL. What I really love here, and the number one value in this draft, look over here, Eli Raridon. He's listed as tight end 4. He should be tight end 3. He should be going in the mid-second round.
Wow.
I if you took him in the mid-second, you wouldn't be reaching. He's a 6'7", 250-pound tight end with a really good season the last year. Had a good production profile in college. And he's going to New England, and New England obviously has Hunter Henry. But how long is that going to continue on? Hunter Henry's just kind of mid. Raridon could hop right into 2 tight end sets right on in the beginning of the year and be the better pass catcher out of the 2. And so Raridon, I think, is just free money, and he's going to be tied to an elite quarterback, which is always the dream with these awesome tight ends, is being tied to an elite quarterback and having a good production profile. So Raridon is my guy in the 3rd round. Get him. Max Clare is also very interesting. He had a better career in Purdue before he went to Ohio State, but he's also athletic. I'll scroll this down a little bit so you can see the next guy, because I know you like him. Oh, you can barely see his name, Oscar Delp. We both like
Mr. Oscar. Yes, sir.
We both like Oscar. So yeah, I think he's an athletic pass catching tight end. I think he'll fit in decently well over there in New Orleans, and they just added a ton of weapons. So this offense is going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot to go around. Kellen Moore runs a fast-paced offense. So yeah, give me Oscar Delp. Do not care about these running backs. Damon Claiborne, Kalen Black. Kalen Black was so overdrafted. Not even funny.
Yeah, I really thought he should have been undrafted in the actual NFL draft, but here we are.
And then the last one is just the quarterbacks at 100%. But the last one's the quarterbacks. You got Drew Allar, Cade Klubnik. Klubnik arguably should probably go ahead of Allar. Allar just has the name equity and the highlight reel. But Klubnik is playing for the Jets. He'll be right behind Geno. Who's to say Geno doesn't get hurt? He's 38, 39 years old. Geno could get knocked out and Cade Klubnik can come in. Or the other thing is, once again, we have a tanking team. You really think they're going to start the veteran all year long? No, they're going to see what they have in Cade Klubnik before they go into next year's draft. So Cade Klubnik will start at some point in this year, and getting him in the 3rd round, you have an opportunity for a quarterback that might be serviceable. So Allar, we don't know what Rodgers is going to do. He just has a lot of upside, so that's why I like taking him.
I like Drew too.
That's my summary for the 3rd round.
Nice. The only thing I might push back on you with is the Damon Claiborne. This is one late running back. I'm not going crazy about him. I do think he's somewhat interesting though. He ran a 4.37. He's super quick. He's super patient, very explosive pass catcher. He falls in Minnesota, who just refuses to invest anything into the running back position.
Yeah.
But this is Aaron Jones, and is it still Jordan Mason maybe on the team?
Yeah.
Aaron Jones, I can't remember the last season
year
that he played a full season. Jordan Mason is a pure runner. He doesn't catch passes. He's just a pure runner, someone they throw in to get a couple yards to get the first down when they need it. So Damon Claiborne is someone I'm a little interested in. The only reason I think he went probably later and maybe not as enticing is because he's small. He's undersized. I think comes in 180.
He's tiny.
So he can't take on a full workload, unfortunately, but he is a good change of pace back. If Minnesota's offense can get anything going with Kyler Murray being there now, and Damon somehow finds his way as at least a pass catching back or a high upside handcuff, it is someone I'm willing to throw a 3rd round at or even a 4th rounder at, especially if I somehow accumulated a couple of late round picks in this draft.
Yep. I could be totally wrong on Damon. Actually, he's from King William, Virginia.
Is he really?
Yep. I actually started a new job this week, and someone there was telling me that he went to school with her, and I thought that was pretty cool.
I take it all back. Do not draft Damon Claiborne.
Yeah, crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
I guess too we can finish out this show because we're almost at an hour, but I would just hit on a couple of my favorite guys here late in the 4th, and this goes all the way to the 5th and 6th round, but I could just tell you a couple of my favorites, and maybe you could say a couple of yours. Adam Randall, big guy. He's He's big dog. He's Derrick Henry, light. He was a former receiver, which is hilarious because he's like 6'2", 230.
Sheesh.
But he could be really fun, and Derrick Henry's getting old, so he could be the second running back on that team immediately. Justin Jolly, the Broncos tight end.
I was hoping you break him
very
up.
athletic. Yeah, I know we both like him. Very athletic, pretty decent production profile. He's just worth a shot there. And then, the rest of these guys are whatever. Brennan Thompson, I think you could take some shots at. We saw the Mike McDaniels video of him saying he would take his shirt off in the front office if they drafted him. He goes to LA and, just blazing speed. So maybe he can do something with them. And then the last guy I love here is Eli Heidenreich. Just looks just like Christian McCaffrey, goes to the Steelers. I saw Art Rooney today say that he's one of the most exciting probably the best 7th round pick they've ever taken.
Wow.
Which I think is pretty high praise right off the bat for a guy, especially from an organization that's pretty like closed doors. So I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't fit into some of those 3 wide receiver roles and played wide receiver as well as running back. I think he can kind of do it all. So
I like that.
Yeah. I think that you could take a shot on Bryce Lance. The rest of the guys I don't really love. The one later guy in 5th round that I do like is Jack Endries. He's the tight end out of Texas. He goes to Cincinnati. Cincinnati's just never had a good tight end. I don't even know who's playing tight end for them right now.
Is it still Mike Gesicki?
Is he still there?
Or I remember they drafted Eric All, and then he got hurt. So I wonder if he's back yet.
And Eric All was a former Texas tight end as well. But yeah, he tore his ACL in college and then came right into the league and tore his ACL again. So I think Endries is pretty interesting there because he can step right into some workload. But I don't know. Is there anybody else there that you like or anybody you want to highlight?
Not really. I mean, obviously at this point, we are just taking a stab at someone that we could potentially, hopefully, throw into a flex spot one day in our lineups. 2 guys I kind of liked was Kevin Coleman and Darian Brown, both slot receivers. Okay. Kevin Coleman went to Miami. Darian Brown went to New Orleans. And again, these guys are buried in the depth chart, but they're really quick slot receivers. And if there's any possible way for some injuries to happen or future years, guys get let go in free agency, they could somehow find a role in the offense running the slot. So that's someone I think both those guys are probably going undrafted in your rookie draft if it's a 4-round draft. So these are guys
he's not even here
free.
Yeah, he's not even here on the 6 rounds, which is kind of wild.
That's insane. Yeah, so there you go. These guys are basically free. Just throw them in your taxi spot. You don't need to hold on to Leonard Fournette and hope that he gets signed by someone to let him go and take on Darian Brown or Kevin Coleman. And say your prayer. There's probably a 5% chance, but we take shots either way because if you don't take shots on upside, then you're not going to win any of your leagues. So
take shots at your feet.
Yeah.
Yes. The last guy I'll say, and I don't have high hopes. I haven't gotten him on every team, but Cole Payton, quarterback drafted to Philly. He's North Dakota State quarterback, pretty good prospect, small school guy. But there's some talk that maybe the Eagles drafted him because he had like 10 plus rushing touchdowns as a quarterback last year at North Dakota State. That the Eagles may have drafted him solely for the tush push. And I don't know how that will affect his, fantasy status, because I can't imagine anybody's going to play him at quarterback just to hope for a tush push touchdown. And he'll probably have some games like Taysom. He might be like a Taysom Hill guy, but less.
That's what I was hearing. Yeah.
Yep. So, just keep your eyes on it. You don't have to go rush and spend all your bank on him, but he's free. I think that's the best way to go about it. I think you can see that in the late 2nd, the 3rd round, all the way through the 4th round, there's some really interesting guys that you can take stabs at. And I mean, sometimes you follow the wisdom of the crowd. Sometimes you zig when others zag. And I told you the other day, I traded a 27-second and got I got the 211, the 212, the 301, and the 302. So I got 4 picks for the price of one second round pick for next year. Which that second will probably be late because I'm a good team in that league. And I got to take 4 stabs at these guys that have potential high upside. So that's something that I think you can take advantage of in your rookie drafts when everybody else is kind of snoozing at the wheel and just listening to every Twitter analyst with the lazy analysis saying, oh, this is the worst draft class ever. This sucks. I don't even draft after 106. Like, shut up. Like, it's just crazy. So anyway, that's what I got to say, Caves. I ain't got nothing else.
I like it, man. I like it. That's really good. I'm still excited for these rookies. I'm still excited to see these guys in the field, especially in the NFL today. I feel like there is a lack of offensive skill in a lot of different teams, and I think that just goes to show that a lot of these guys were pushed up boards for a reason, and they're going to be used. At the end of the day, even if a guy is claimed to have no talent or skill, we chase production, and if there's production, there's going to be fantasy points. So. Yeah, I love taking stabs at any of these guys. Obviously, there's guys we're higher on, lower on, whatever. But we'll see. Maybe I'll be completely wrong about every single guy, but you know what? That's
we'll
okay.
Have to come back to this. That's going to be okay, man.
Come back. Hey, guys.
That's
Don't take Eli Raridon.
But like you took Eli Raridon most likely in the late second, early third, and it's like, okay, I didn't hit on that pick. I hardly ever hit on that pick. You know, it's not like this draft class is so bad that like last year you were getting late seconds that were all hitting. No, it doesn't work like that.
And I see a lot of fantasy players who are just taking guys because it feels right. Like a Chris Brazzell because he has no competition and could be the wide receiver too and was the only receiver drafted by Carolina. Or Malachi Fields because New York took him and they don't have an established wide receiver too. Or Skylar Bell because he's got Josh Allen as his QB. And just because he has Josh Allen, he should be good. And I just think that's idiotic, honestly. You know, you could obviously that plays a factor. You should always look at that. But talent always beats out. Talent is always going to win. And that's why we chase the guy with upside, with talent, because it always ends up working out. So don't get caught up in the, he's got an elite QB, so take him early second, or he has no competition, absolutely, and he should be good.
Right.
And that goes for every Miami receiver that went in this draft.
Yes.
But it is funny how different people react to and how they base their draft picks off of certain information.
Yeah. And I get it when you first get into Dynasty, you're looking for people to lead you. But, once you do it for a little while, you have to kind of make your own decisions. And, when everybody's saying one thing, the draft is always like this. Even the NFL draft, everybody thinks they know what the consensus board is. These guys don't get drafted at consensus. The consensus board gets thrown out the window after like the first 10 picks of the first round. And then we have all kinds of guys who blow up and play really well in their second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round players. And then we go into our rookie drafts thinking that we're drafting based off consensus. And it's just because everybody else likes, let's say, Chris Bell. Everybody loves Chris Bell because their favorite Twitter analyst was saying, go draft Chris Bell. And I wouldn't be surprised if like any of these guys that go behind him, Jeremy Bernard, Antonio Williams, Zachariah Branch, even Dejon Stribling and Elijah Surratt were to be better than him, And so you just kind of have to, you got to zig when everybody else zags. You might be wrong at times, but the times you hit, it's going to be magnificent. And, so anyway, that's all.
You're going to do a lot of gloating. Well, good stuff, man. That was fun. I like that. Hopefully you guys get a lot of good stuff out of it and do tremendous jobs in your rookie drafts. We will be back next week. It should be me, Cam, and Trey covering some more fun stuff on the NFL. And then I believe next show, I'm really excited for this. We're going to be going more into best ball drafts. I have
Yeah, girl.
personally never done any best ball before. I'm pretty stoked though. It's getting super, super popular. So I
Yeah.
know fantasy players are, I don't want to play anything different. I only want to play regular season fantasy football because that's all I've ever known. Stop
Right.
being an 80-year-old boomer. Um, the game is changing. It's changing because it's more fun to do things like this. So don't act like that. I'm excited. I'm going to get into best ball. Cam is a best ball pro and is going to go over
I don't know
different
about all that.
strategies. Don't say that, bro. Don't say that.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, I'm a pro. I'm a pro. I got you.
He's pro. But there's different strategies. There's different ways to look at guys, different ways to build your teams. It's going to be a lot of really, really good stuff. And the great thing about best ball drafts is you can do like 80,000 drafts and just leave
Yep.
them alone and not worry about them, which
Yep.
any fantasy football player knows that half the fun of fantasy football is doing the actual draft. So, I
Yep.
mean, it doesn't get better than that.
It's
Anyways,
practice for your redraft leagues.
exactly.
Yep.
So that will be the next show. Come in, hang out. I don't know if we're going live, but if you guys do happen to have any questions, just drop it in the comments. We'll get to you as soon as we can. And Cam, you got anything else?
Yeah, just exactly what Caleb said. Be ready for these shows. We're going to get hot and heavy. The off season is not the off season for us. We're going to be rolling. We've been a little inconsistent, but we're going to tighten it up here. But yeah, make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. You can see the little ticker down below showing all of our socials: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Sunday concessions, and also go over to the website fanfeednetwork.com. We've got all the merch on there. If you didn't get to see the merch, we were giving out free t-shirts on our live round 1 NFL draft stream. I think a couple people have already gotten theirs. The merch is sick. It's sick. We've got merch for every single
Super
team.
good.
So make sure you check that out. And we've also got some options for premium memberships to the website. They get you discounts on all the merch, get you access to things like rankings, behind the scenes tours, all that good stuff. So yeah, if you want to support the show, go check that out. But yeah, other than that, Cabes, that's all I got, man. So
Good stuff. All right. I'll see you back here for best ball.
all right, man. We'll see you.